tonight on Unsolved Mysteries.
Brooke Baker was a reporter for her campus newspaper, a small-town girl with big-time ambitions. What was it about her life that led to this brutal attack? It is one of the stranger stories we've encountered. People who call themselves walk-ins and claim their bodies have been inhabited, in fact taken over by invading spirits. Could it be that walk-ins are walking among us? It had all the signs of a tragic accident until police found evidence of an elaborate setup, cold-blooded murder. Now, this man stands accused of killing his own wife, but he insists that he is innocent. When a terrifying accident left Wilma Drew unconscious and trapped in her car, death seemed inevitable. Then salvation arrived in the form of an unknown Good Samaritan. Now Wilma needs your help to thank the man who saved her life. 20 years ago, a young Korean woman said goodbye to her GI husband and her daughter, then boarded a train, and for some unknown reason never came back. Since then, her daughter has grown up, married, and hopes that someone watching tonight can reunite her with her long-lost mother. Join me. Perhaps you may be able to help solve a mystery, or perhaps you may encounter one that simply cannot be explained. Every autumn, thousands of parents send their sons and daughters off to college, assuming they'll be safe and on their way to a bright future. The parents of a young woman named Brooke Baker thought exactly that. They were wrong. Her campus experience proved fatal. Brooke Baker, a college sophomore, stabbed to death in her own bed just half a block off campus. Police in Vincennes, Indiana, started their investigation certain the case would be solved easily. But more than a year later, Brooke's killer remains unidentified.
Okay. How about the right shoulder up here?
I'm obsessed with it. I can't live without justice for Brooke. I can't go on with my own life. That's all I can think. I want justice.
Who killed Brooke Baker? Of the many theories police are pursuing, several point to a direct link between Brooke's life and her brutal murder. Was it angry fraternity brothers out for revenge? A psychopath posing as a potential roommate? Or perhaps Brooke's landlord? He allegedly watched her closely. Then there's a puzzle of Brooke's cousin. Does she know something she hasn't told police?
To me, the real key in solving this case is going to be when we answer the question, who was Brooke Baker and what was there about her life in the last few years of her life that led up to this extraordinary conclusion?
Brooke Baker was a small-town girl with big city ambitions. She planned to be somebody, a top-flight journalist.
I need the photographs.
At Vincennes University, Brooke became very active on the school paper, and she made sure everyone knew it.
Can you call me back, please? Because I'm waiting and I need them.
I think one of the things Brooke really enjoyed was the power that came from being a reporter on the paper. It gave her certainly recognition and visibility on campus, and I think she enjoyed the attention.
Few 19-year-olds make deadly enemies. Brooke may have been an exception. In the spring of 1997, she heard rumors of a date rape at a fraternity party and went after the story aggressively.
Are you in a sorority? Right. So would you describe some of the incidences that happened to you?
It would have been very easy to work on the story and have nobody know about it but members of the staff, but the word was out everywhere, and I think the word was generated from Brooke. I think she wanted people to know what she was doing.
At the fraternity where the alleged rape had taken place, Brooke's investigation was not welcome.
You better not write anything about us.
Look, I can write whatever I want about you.
I'm serious.
And you better watch your back.
You better watch your back.
She didn't worry about who she offended or whose toe she stepped on. If it was the truth, it was the truth.
Fraternity members allegedly started sending Brooke email, threatening her if she ran the rape story. Brooke was unfazed, but her mother was very concerned.
I feared for Brooke's safety all the time, and I'd question her on it, and she'd say if it could save one girl from being raped or abused, she was willing to write the story, investigate the fraternity.
The harassment allegedly climaxed one night when a truckload of fraternity brothers confronted Brooke at a friend's house. They reportedly called her names and shouted more threats. Did a conflict between Brooke Baker and the fraternity ultimately lead to murder? A few months later, Brooke moved into a new house where she thought she'd be safer. The landlord was a campus police officer.
You need any help with the boxes?
Oh, no, I got it. Thank you. Thanks.
Sure.
Within weeks, however, Brooke allegedly started having trouble with the landlord.
What are you doing in my house?
Just looking for my bug spray.
No,
Brooke told her parents she discovered him prowling around her house at all hours.
you have to, if you need to come in here, you would have to call. You can't come into my house.
According to her parents, the landlord once shined a light through the windows. On another occasion, Brooke said he came in while she was in the shower.
She felt uncomfortable enough that she told a number of people that she just was just generally uncomfortable by the whole situation.
What happened the night Brooke died? Did her landlord let himself in? Did an angry confrontation escalate to murder? Vincennes police also identified a third theory of murder. Only days before her death, Brooke placed an ad for a roommate in the campus newspaper.
Someone who wants to come over to Brooke's house and knock on the door and say, hey, I'm here about your room, I want to be a roommate, what's Brooke's natural reaction going to be in that? Open the door and let them in.
Brooke's ad may have become an invitation to murder. Police found no evidence of forced entry, no signs of a struggle. Their most vital clues are several samples of DNA. To date, they have interviewed 400 people and tested 52 against those samples. They say parents who bury a child never really stop grieving. It goes too hard against the heart. For Brooke's parents, however, answers would at least be a great comfort. Update. 2 years after Brooke Baker's death, police got their first break in the case. Tragically, it came at the cost of another life. On July 5, 1999, investigators searched the apartment of missing Vincennes College student Erika Norman. There they found a crime scene eerily similar to Brooke Baker's, including the identical odd characteristic in the bathroom.
There was water running in the bathtub, and I knew right then that it was the same person who had committed the murder of Brooke Baker.
Erika had last been seen leaving a local restaurant with a man by the name of Brian Jones. He was immediately brought in for questioning.
When we interviewed Brian Jones, it turned out that he was a roommate of an individual that was seeing Brooke Baker within the last couple weeks of her death.
Brian Jones consented to give a sample of his DNA. It linked him conclusively to the murder of Brooke Baker, and Jones was arrested. When Erika Norman's body was found 2 weeks later, Jones struck a plea bargain. He admitted to killing Erika, and in exchange, prosecutors did not seek the death penalty in the Brooke Baker trial. On December 14th, Brian Jones was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Brian presented himself to me as someone that would have not stopped. That case stopped a serial killer, in my opinion.
Next, meet some people who claim their bodies have been taken over by someone else's soul. Paris, a brooding artist and teacher, nearly dies in a hospital. During a near-death experience, he has a nightmare vision of hell. He survives and becomes a minister in his church. The experience forever changes his life. During a thunderstorm, a self-centered bully is struck by lightning.
Be on the phone whenever there was lightning flashing.
The 180,000 volts nearly killed him. When he recovered, he began having psychic experiences, and he's changed his violent ways, becoming a hospice volunteer.
Good to see you again.
These individuals say near-death experiences made them behave like different people. Tonight we'll tell you about a group who say they really are different people. They call themselves Walkins. They say their bodies have been taken over by other spirits. It sounds unbelievable. But at a recent convention in England, 500 people claiming to be walk-ins showed up. Is there any truth to their strange tales?
I began to feel that I had to change my name. And this happens very often to walk-ins. And I didn't know why.
I felt like a stranger in a strange land. I didn't fit here. I didn't understand this world. I didn't understand how it worked.
The doctor patted me and he said, "Young lady, you gave us quite a scare." And I said, "Oh, I'm not who you think I am."
Those who believe say it's not possession. It's an even trade of one soul for another. And they say it could happen to any one of us.
I'm just feeling a little bit of...
For Carol Parrish, the routine life of a housewife in the South would lead to the extraordinary experience of being a walk-in. Carol had 5 children with a 6th on the way. During childbirth in 1958, doctors gave Carol a shot of sodium pentothal to ease her pain.
All right, we're going to give you something to make you a little more comfortable. Nurse, 2 cc's of sodium pentothal.
But Carol had an allergic reaction to the drug and her lungs collapsed.
All right, we've got an anaphylactic shock. Nurse, let's get some oxygen going.
She was on the edge of death.
Let's do an IV. Bring in an IV stat.
Suddenly I wasn't
Doctor, check
there.
status. How's she doing?
It was just like I had been totally engaged in that struggle, and the next thing, it's cool, and I'm floating, and I look down, and you hardly know that that's you.
All right, we've got...
Carol watched her baby being born. Then she says her soul entered a tunnel of light where she felt she wasn't alone. She describes it as a near-death experience. But then, something even stranger happened.
And I stood there, and in that light, it began to tell me things. It was like a whole flow of information just came into my mind, and this love and this wisdom just permeated wave after wave of understanding, wisdom, richness. This flowed into me.
Carol wasn't expected to live, but she says her body was given new life with a different soul. The old Carol was gone, and a new identity had taken over.
Be alive.
I saw young Carol move off into the care of some other beings.
I'm not who you think that I am.
It's okay.
As I look at each person,
The light has sent
their
me.
eyes, just the veil comes over their eyes. And I turn my head toward the wall, and
big tears started coming in my eyes and down my cheeks, and I thought, how will I ever get anybody to believe me? Who's going to listen?
From then on, Carol says everything about her life changed. She began having out-of-body experiences.
One day I was nursing the baby, and I found myself standing in the door looking at myself, and immediately thought, oh, that's happening to me again. When I thought that, I popped back together, and it passed. And I tried to talk about that to my family.
Her husband said she was insane.
Where's your medicine?
Her doctor tried to put her on Valium.
I'm not taking it anymore.
Why not?
It's not good for the baby.
Carol, the doctor said you've got to take that medicine.
The new Carol made radical changes in her life.
Bill, I am not taking the medicine anymore.
She started school to study bookkeeping. She got a job and eventually became a manager at a local bank. Carol believes her new identity was a threat to her husband, a firefighter. He left her in 1967.
The years after the experience and before I was really doing what I consider to be my spiritual life and my life work were very lonely. I was lonely for other people that valued the things that were so meaningful to me.
In 1965, Carol began to study metaphysical religion. It led to her becoming a minister at the Light of Christ Community Church. She remarried. The timid Southern girl had blossomed into an outspoken leader. There was no way she could be the same person. Carol realized she was a walk-in.
I believe young Carol went as all souls do, into tender hands to care for her and help her reorient herself to the world of spirit. The idea that life is ongoing, and if you are, you always will be. That's the piece that I think is so important. Partly it's important because we would live life more courageously if we really believed that.
An exchange of souls? Is it really possible? A woman named Sherry claims it happened to her. She was a high school principal. While visiting a friend in Wyoming, Sherry says her old soul was exchanged for another. Sherry began to feel disoriented. She asked her friend, who was a metaphysical healer, to lay her hands on her. Suddenly, the room began to change.
There was a globe of golden pulsating energy. The core of the energy just punched right into the base of my spine. I raised up on my knees and sat immersed in this colorful light and found myself wanting to just flow with it and dance with it with my hands and my arms.
Later, Sherry's friend said she had changed. Her husband knew something was very different, especially when she explained that she had a new name.
I'm Joelle.
I think some of my most difficult moments were when I would have something come up, and I needed some help, for instance. And usually in the past I could, give a little shout or something, and somebody would come and help me. And with Joelle, I'd say, okay, let's go. And it was kind of like I'm waiting to hear and nothing. It was a different response. That was something to get used to.
I don't know.
What's wrong?
I'm afraid.
Oh, there's nothing to be afraid of.
It's over. It's like things are changing.
Besides helping her husband come to terms with her new identity, there were other problems as well. Mundane tasks became nearly impossible.
There was a hypersensitivity to energy fields around people, energy fields around things. So to go into a supermarket, see the energy fields, hear all the thoughts, it was so difficult to stay focused on what my task was. I tried to narrow my task down to 5 to 10 items so I could get through that express line as quick as possible.
Over time, Jewel says she managed to accept her new identity, as did her husband and daughter.
It's as though there are 2 chapters in our lives as a family. There's the before and there's the after. And in many ways, our life as a family started after my mother experienced the walk-in. A lot of the healing that wasn't able to take place before did after. We are so much stronger as a family unit.
Jewel now dedicates herself to educating others about her walk-in experience.
I traveled the country, I traveled the world, speaking to different groups of people, doing private counseling sessions with people. I'm an author. One of the beautiful memories that came from Sherry was her ability to teach, was her ability to speak to people. I've taken that aspect and I've just taken it to the next phase.
Are the stories of walk-ins valid? Can one soul truly enter the body and replace another that is ready to move on? The people we have met tonight, and many others, do claim a new spirit. A positive spirit resides inside them. A spirit that has changed their lives for the better. When it comes to walk-ins, perhaps that is all we need to know. Next, judging by the family photos, Steve and Cathy Page had a storybook marriage. But when Cathy turned up dead, a grieving husband became the prime suspect. It was early dawn on May 14, 1991, when police in Vidor, Texas discovered the wreck. The woman behind the wheel was dead, her skin cool to the touch. At first glance, a tragic accident, but within seconds, anomalies began to emerge. The dead woman had no obvious wounds, and the car was barely damaged. Soft drinks in the front seat hadn't even spilled. The list grew longer. The woman's feet were pushed back against the seat rather than stretched out toward the pedals. She wasn't wearing a seatbelt, yet she had not pitched forward.
Being no damage to the interior of the vehicle and very little, if not any, damage to the exterior of the vehicle and the deepness of the ditch. Plain to see this was a staged incident instead of an accident. So at that point, they thought they had probably a questionable death.
The woman was identified as 34-year-old Cathy Page. She was a wife and mother. She lived at 450 Green Street, curiously just 100 yards from the crash site. Cathy's husband, Steve, answered the door.
Who is it?
Vidor Police. I'm Sergeant Mosley of the Vidor Police Department. Are you Mr. Page?
Yes.
Mr. Page, you know where your wife's at?
My wife.
And he said, well, his wife was not home, and directly looked straight down the street towards where the car was.
Is this about my wife?
Yes, it is, sir. Sorry to advise you, sir. We found her deceased in her vehicle this morning. Can we step inside the residence and discuss this matter?
Steve seemed to be quite upset. He began to cry at times, and at times threw himself on the couch crying, but yet he would jump right back up, and we would talk, and there would be no signs of tears in his eyes. This seemed strange to me.
Was she in a car accident?
Sir, we don't know all the details. We're still
From that moment on, police concentrated their attention on Steve Page. 6 years later, he is still the prime suspect. For Page, those years have been an ordeal. Barely a day passes that he doesn't fend off accusations that he killed his wife, the mother of his children.
Of course, I did not kill my wife. The evidence clearly shows that the perpetrator was someone other than Steve Page.
Is this the face of a killer? Many people in the small town of Vidor, Texas, are convinced it is. They are certain only Steve Page had both the opportunity and motive to murder his wife, Cathy. Her family claims he would be in prison today if his personal relationships with police officials had not dirtied the investigation. Steve Page insists he is innocent. Tonight, we'll examine both sides of this controversial case. Cathy and Steve Page had been married for almost 13 years. They had 2 daughters, 12-year-old Erin and 7-year-old Monica. They seemed like a perfect family, but according to Steve, he and Cathy had drifted apart, and she was no longer happy with her role as Steve's wife.
Mainly, she was uncomfortable with who she was, or at least that was what she explained to me, that she didn't know who she was. She wanted to try to find out who Cathy was. Because of that, we talked about separating for a short period of time and allowing her to hopefully find herself.
Cathy's sister Sherry disagrees. She says the marriage was beyond repair.
Cathy was definitely moving on in her life at that point because the decision was made for the divorce. And that in itself, having a decision like that finally be resolved in itself was a real relief off her back. And she was making plans for that.
Steve moved out of the house, but he says his relationship with Cathy remained friendly. The next day, Cathy asked him to babysit their daughters while she went out with a friend. Cathy was getting ready when Steve arrived.
She said she was going to meet one of her girlfriends after work. And so I went over there. She left at approximately 11:15 to 11:30 to head to Beaumont to meet her friend. Charlotte was the friend's name.
By 4:15 a.m., Cathy Page was dead. When her body was found, she wasn't wearing makeup or jewelry. The autopsy showed she had been strangled, her nose broken, her eye blackened. There were blood stains on Cathy's underwear and skin, but strangely, not on her outer clothing.
Cathy Page was not killed in her vehicle. She was killed at another location, cleaned up, redressed, and placed back in her vehicle, and after the vehicle had been rolled into the ditch.
And there was more. Sometime shortly before Cathy Page died, she had engaged in sexual activity. Was that mysterious someone Cathy's killer? Police soon learned that Cathy had not gone to meet her friend Charlotte, but had instead spent the evening with a boyfriend in a motel in Beaumont, Texas, about 10 minutes from Vidor. The boyfriend acknowledged that he and Cathy made love that night.
He came to the police station, he gave us a statement, and also voluntarily gave us a polygraph examination, which he passed with flying colors.
However, the autopsy report included one more critical detail. Cathy's sex partner had had a vasectomy. The boyfriend had not. That meant Cathy must have had sex that night with someone else. Could that man have been Steve Page? He had had a vasectomy several months earlier. When police questioned him, he admitted having sex with Cathy, but claimed it was before she went out that night.
She's expecting us, Steve.
She was getting ready. She just got out of the shower. I approached her about sex, and we had sex before she left, before she got dressed even.
I personally don't believe that that happened. She wouldn't have been with Steve before being with another man. She hadn't been with Steve in a long time. He's already sleeping on the couch. Him coming over to take care of the kids was more of a kindness gesture for him to be around his kids, not for him to be around Cathy.
For Cathy's family, there is only one possible scenario, a deadly scenario, sparked when Steve discovered 2 phone numbers. One belonged to Cathy's friend Charlotte, the other to the motel in Beaumont.
I was talking to a sister-in-law of Steve's, and she said that she knew for a fact that Steve made 2 phone calls. Steve called this one number, and the girl answered, and he hung up. And then the second phone number was called, and they said the name of the hotel, and he hung up. And so he already knew where she might be or was.
I feel like she came in that night and come in the back door after she'd unparked the car, and he was asleep sitting in a chair in the front room. And when she went on in the bathroom and changed clothes, took her makeup off, took her jewelry and all off, and he heard her probably in the bathroom. And he got up and demanded sex with her or whatever, got in a fight.
Cathy's family believes the fight escalated. Steve Page raped Cathy. In the process, he strangled her.
Then Steve, realizing what had happened, He wants to redress her. If you look at the violent crime profile, it fits him to a T. You know, the remorse, you want to redress, you don't want them to be found naked or bloody. So there was an attempt to clean her up and redress her. But things were forgotten. For instance, her jewelry and her socks.
The reason it comes down on me is because I'm the husband. I'm the estranged husband, to make it even worse, and because of her actions. I am being blamed for her actions. She was out seeing another guy. So therefore, it could only have been me. I must have found out somehow, according to the police, and became enraged and committed murder.
Steve Page has his own theory on the identity of Cathy's killer.
I received threats on the phone that the same thing that happened to my wife could happen to me. There was a name of a certain person here in Beaumont that was bandied about as a person who may have been involved. It's a very prominent family, an Italian family even, to let you know that they're considered part of the Beaumont Mafia.
Next, a frightening accident. A woman on the brink of death. A timely rescue by an unknown Good Samaritan. September 7th, 1995. Dusk on a 4-lane highway near Ocala, Florida. 48-year-old Wilma Drew was just a mile from home. She had driven up this hill hundreds of times. But this night, disaster was lurking. A few miles away, a car had entered the highway going the wrong way. Now it was headed straight for Wilma at 55 miles an hour. David Vidito was driving right behind Wilma.
As we were approaching the crest, I saw headlights approaching us. And the minute the lights came into view, I immediately tried to get over in the right-hand lane to avoid the collision. I automatically, just in my gut, knew that somebody was going to be dead.
David raced to help the victims. The driver and passenger in the wrong-way car seemed to be moving. Wilma was not. She was pinned in her car, the steering column wedged up against her chest. The driver's window was open, but the other windows and all the doors were jammed.
Go out to my truck. I'll get a tool. I'll be right back.
I decided to run back to the truck to grab a tire tool, try to pry the door open, or whatever I could do to try to get in to assist her possibly better.
Another Good Samaritan, Matthew White, also stopped to help. The two men didn't know it, but Wilma's neck had been broken, cutting off her air passage. Wilma was suffocating.
All the doors are jammed from the impact. Her driver's side window was busted out on the driver's side door, so that's all we could do is reach through there. And we couldn't break the windows out, so we were trying to get someone who has something that could break the window.
Hey, we need some help! Stop!
David tried flagging down help. A tanker truck stopped. Remarkably, the driver seemed to know exactly what to do and how to do it.
Get it open? No, it's locked. You try it. All right, stand back.
After I busted the window, he climbed in into the back seat and reached over and lifted and held Wilma's head up.
Wilma took a breath.
She breathing? Yeah. Let's get this thing off her and give her some room. You got it?
Matthew and David struggled to lift the steering column off Wilma's chest.
Come on.
The trucker, meanwhile, kept her neck motionless. It seemed like hours, but the ambulance arrived 10 minutes later.
Sir, I need you to let go and come out of the car, okay?
I'm not letting go until you put a brace around her neck.
To get out of the car.
And the paramedic was just insistent that he let go of her head and get out of the car. And the man would not let go of her head until I held it while he got out and the paramedic got in.
No, I can hold her. You got her? Yeah. You got her gently? Yeah, I got her.
Wilma was stabilized. In the midst of the commotion, no one saw the truck driver leave. No one had a chance to get more than a glimpse of what he looked like. Wilma's husband came upon the crash scene a short time later.
When I saw the vehicle, in my mind, nobody could have lived through it. I remember a lady asked me if that was my car, and I said yes, and my wife's dead. And she says, no, she isn't. They just, left here where they're in the helicopter.
It would take 11 operations and nearly a year to begin to repair the damage. Wilma's right leg had nearly been torn in half. Her left ankle was shattered. Her brainstem was so damaged that it caused permanent double vision. And the C2 vertebra in Wilma's neck was completely severed.
The neurosurgeon told us that the break that she sustained is called the hangman's break. And it's typically what would happen in the old days in the West when somebody would drop from a gallows, the way the body would pull and jerk at the end. And what he told us was he's never seen anybody survive that injury, that she's the only one he's ever seen survive it. And he can't understand why she's still alive. And that was kind of eerie.
I consider myself extremely fortunate, and I've never really questioned why me. I mean, I don't know why it happened to me, but I know that there is a purpose for it, and it's even peculiar that I've never experienced any anger. I'm just very thankful to be alive.
The neurosurgeon said it was a miracle that he didn't actually kill her in the process of lifting her head.
Is she breathing? Yeah.
But that he did it exactly right. Had he done it any different, it wouldn't have worked. He gave the doctors something to work with, and he just saved her life and gave her back to us. She is not the same person physically that she was. She has limitations. There's very little that she can do. She tires easy. And she has different sensations in her hands, like she can't tell heat and cold. And, but no, I consider myself the most fortunate person in the world to have her back.
Thank you just really seems so insignificant as far as the way we feel about the gratitude we have, that someone would take the time to get involved and to do all he did for me and then just disappear.
Next, a young woman would like your help to find her mother, who disappeared 20 years ago. A beautiful bride, a handsome groom, a fairy tale wedding, except for one sad detail. The mother of the bride is missing. She vanished from her daughter's life 23 years ago and never returned.
She's still my mother, and I still love her as a mother. Just to see her, just to know that she's okay.
But the father of the bride, Robert Wortman, has always been there for his daughter, Stella Wortman Hutt. He has raised her since she was 3, and he believes that his former wife would have cherished her daughter's special day and more.
She's missed so much of Stella's life, you know, slumber parties, chicken pops, graduation, and stuff like that there. There's no need for her to miss any more.
Stella is now in her late 20s. Her mother disappeared in 1975. Stella often lies awake at night and wonders, why did her mother walk out of her family's life? In 1972, Stella's father, Robert Wortman, was a 22-year-old serving in the Air Force in Seoul, South Korea. He fell in love with a 20-year-old Korean woman named Ok Cha. Robert nicknamed her Sunny.
I realize now we're both from two different cultures, and both of us were very young at the time.
Despite the odds against them, the couple married. They welcomed their new baby a year later. She was named Stella after Robert's mother. The new family relocated to Tokyo, Japan. Robert was to be stationed there for the next 4 years.
I remember my mom, she worked at ice cream parlor. And this was when I was about 3. That's basically all I remember.
Sonny worked on the base to help support them. Life was good, at least for the moment.
Hi, you want some ice cream?
Her mother took on a second job, working nights as a waitress. Sonny seemed to live a double life. She was rarely home.
My dad said that she hung around people who were kind of into the wrong things, weren't really family-oriented, and he believes that, she just wanted to be around those people all the time, that basically came first for her.
Tensions between husband and wife continued to drive them apart. Finally, they agreed that Stella should spend time with Robert's relatives in New Jersey.
Like most people, we had some family problems and stuff, and tried to work them out. I thought it'd be best to get her into a more stable family, so which I brought her back to the United States to my mother's, to her grandma.
How you doing, honey? Oh, it's so good to see you. Give me a kiss. Give your grandma a kiss. Oh, girl, you're looking so good. Oh, hi, Robert. Come on inside. Oh, it's so good to
Robert
see you.
returned to Japan, hoping to patch up his marriage and bring Sonny back with him to America. Robert and Sonny worked out their differences, or so it seemed. They were granted a transfer to New Jersey to be with Stella, but there was one hitch.
So you'll be back on the 19th?
Yes, I just need a couple weeks.
Sonny said she wanted to see her family in South Korea one last time.
Goodbye.
But Robert had no idea that his wife had other plans in mind. She was about to walk out of his life and Stella's. What would motivate a mother to leave her child without even saying goodbye? Why would she keep this terrible secret from her husband? Those very questions haunt Stella to this day.
I want to be able to ask her why she didn't show up for the day when she was supposed to come with my father to New Jersey.
Why Sonny disappeared remains a mystery. Robert eventually remarried and had another daughter. Stella adored her stepmother, but often struggled with her own identity.
I knew being Oriental, that I had a mom who was Oriental. I knew back in the back of my mind that I had a real mother somewhere, just didn't know who she was or where she was. I thought about her and I did miss her. Like on Mother's Day, I would think about her. On my birthday, I would think about her, and it would cross my mind, like, did she ever think about me?
But in 1985, Stella received a surprise in the mail. Out of the blue, Sonny had sent her daughter 4 dresses and a stuffed animal.
Oh, look at that. Oh, that's gonna look nice on you.
It made me feel really, really good. It felt good to know that she still thought about me, that I crossed her mind. Remember, I cried. Every time I held the stuffed animal, I would just cry and hold it and go to sleep with it and just snuggle it and just take it everywhere I went.
Now there's an extra incentive for Sonny to reunite with Stella. She could meet her grandson, 6-year-old Darius.
It's time to forgive and forget. She probably has a new life. I do too. But Stella's part of our life. So, life's too short. Let's enjoy the time that we have left.
Join us next time. Perhaps you may help solve a mystery